Hey there, Mr. Redder here. Welcome back to another episode of Reddit Podcast Stories, where today, Karen judges me for being single and demands I get married. I, 45 female, went to a wedding a few weeks ago where my cousin, who's 55 female, was talking about how she wishes that I would get married. I've heard the struggles of her marriage. She cheated and he took her back. They do everything he wants. She's given up her hobbies and learned to enjoy his. He controls the money and she works part-time and she could never afford to live on her own, etc. And for 20 years, I've heard how I should get married. I've always said it's not a priority, and if it happens, then it happens. I've repeatedly said throughout the years that I enjoy being single. I've been proposed to multiple times and I like living on my own terms. I can embrace my hobbies, which are expensive, have a great job, live on my own, have great friends, I travel, and I've had great long-term relationships. My life is full. I've been financially independent since I was 22. She's never been financially independent. The entire family knows that I'm generous with my time and my money, whether it's a gift or helping somebody out financially without expecting repayment, electricity, groceries, school expenses, etc. Marriage has never been a priority to me. I finally had it with the comments and her not respecting my life. I finally told her I respect her opinions, but I felt like her marriage was that of convenience and sounds absolutely miserable to me. I could never be happy in a marriage like hers. I feel like being able to make my own decisions, and if the right person comes along, then it's fine. But that it's not a goal of mine, and it never has been. The look of shock on her face said it all. She didn't care for that, and she's painting me out to be mean. After 20 years of comments and pressure, I finally said what needed to be said to get the comments to stop. She couldn't fathom that somebody wouldn't want to have her life, and to me, it sounds like a prison sentence. She also can't fathom somebody could be happy living my life. So, am I the jerk? Update. More on her audacity. She called me an hour ago to complain to me because I offered to give my second car to my brother's daughter for her 16th birthday, since I never even drive it. My niece posted on social media thanking me for being so generous. She wanted to know why I wouldn't offer it to her kid who's in college and needs it more than my niece. I simply told her it's my decision what I do with my car and that my niece and I are close. She went on for 20 minutes before I bluntly said, "It's my car and my choice of what to do with it. Deal with it." Then I hung up. Not the jerk. Definitely the energy we need in 2024. If you insist on harassing a friend or a family member about not getting married or having kids, I'm more than happy to put your life under a microscope as Exhibit A for why you should shut up. Every time we take the opportunity to make someone that pushy feel a trickle of fear, we all win. Not the jerk. There's an old saying, misery loves company. My very single daughter keeps being asked when she's going to settle down by relatives in dismal relationships, and she's 40 this year. Far better to be happily single than browbeaten and financially dependent. My stepdaughter said she hates me, so I'm not bringing her on my trip. I, 28 female, married my husband who's 37 4 years ago when his daughter was 11. She's 15 now and almost 16. Her parents have been divorced since she was 7. She still sees her mom regularly and they have a great relationship. I know I will never be her mother and I've never tried to take on that role nor force her to look at me that way. The problem is she doesn't like me at all. Since she was 11, she's made it clear that I'm not her mom. She rolls her eyes at me, ignores me a lot of the time, tells me I'm not her mom, etc. Her mom and I get along. She will call me if she needs me to take my stepdaughter to practice instead because she has a new baby. We're not best friends, but we do keep in touch for the sake of her daughter because her dad travels a lot for work, so I'm the sole parental figure for her. I don't try to force my stepdaughter to spend time with me, but sometimes I do suggest we go shopping, watch a movie, etc., especially when her dad travels out of town for a few days. I'm always shut down. This brings me to last week. I had to go in her room to put more towels in her bathroom, and she's been a little down because her boyfriend broke up with her. I knock and she lets me in, and I see she's watching Love is Blind, and I say, "Oh, I'm watching this right now with Anna, my niece. I'm an episode behind you, but I'd love to watch it with you." She ignores me, and I put the towels up in her bathroom, and when I'm leaving, I say, "I have snacks downstairs. I also got new face masks if you want to try them out, or we can just talk if you want someone to vent to," because we're both into skincare, and I know how hard a teenage breakup is. She pauses her TV and says, "Stop trying to be my mom. I don't like you. You're just my dad's wife. I have a mom, and you mean nothing to me, so stay out of my life and stop trying to get me to do things with you. I want nothing to do with you, weirdo." She shoos me out of her room and slams the door in my face. I will admit that I cried a little. My niece/goddaughter is graduating high school this year, and when we were watching Love is Blind, she said she would love to go to a beach because she's never been, and would love to go on a good vacation before she starts college, so we started making plans. I'm paying for both of us. Her mom says she wants to go and she'll pay for herself. My niece also asked if her best friend could come, and I said I'd cover the hotel and plane, but her parents will have to pay the rest. Yesterday, when I was searching and calling around for hotels and amenities and things to do, she comes down and hears me. Her dad walked in and she goes, "Are we going on a vacation?" He says, "I don't think so. Are we, Sarah?" I say, "I'm taking my sister and my niece and her friend as a graduation present." And she asks her dad if she can go, and he asks why I didn't ask her. And I say, "We made this plan when I asked her if she wanted to watch a show with me and my niece, and she told me I'm not her mom and she doesn't want us to do things together, and she wants nothing to do with me." And they tried to make excuses, but I said, "I can't be your parent/friend when you want me to do things for you, but you treat me like crap any other time." She went and called her mom, and her mom called me, and I explained what had happened and what was said. She was shocked about what her daughter said to me, but she understood completely. She told my stepdaughter that she will take her on a trip when she graduates, but she missed out by acting that way, and she can't force me to take her. My husband says I should get over it and take her. I don't think I'm in the wrong. Not the jerk, but I'm curious why you would marry someone who has a kid that clearly doesn't like you. That's a crappy deal either way, and it's telling when the parent doesn't care enough to at least try to fix the problem beforehand. Based off the husband's response, he enables your stepdaughter's behavior, so not sure how you expect all of this to play out. OP. She was not so open about not liking me until she hit 13. We were cordial. That feels like something I'd say about two adults, but I know that she wanted to be left alone because our parents had divorced, and I know how hard it is because my parents got divorced, so I didn't pressure her into talking to me. I hope this is making sense, but when she was 11, I was not being verbally treated like this. She just really kept her distance and kept conversation to a minimum. I love when spoiled kids run up against the consequences of their actions. You're better than I am, OP. I wouldn't even give her another chance. She hates me? Great. No more presents, money for field trips, allowance, favorite meals made by me, or anything else. If she decides to, she could try and earn back my regard, but I tend to ignore people that hate me. And once she turns 18, I would start treating her as an adult that I don't like. But I'm also a vindictive person. OP. I have thought about going down that route after she said that, but I am also a kid of divorced parents, and I know how hard it can be when your parents start dating someone new. So I never fed her for that because I was the one in that position. But I feel like she's 16 now, and she says what she says, she can mean what she says, so she has to deal with those actions. Update. I took some of the people's advice, and I had to sit down with her, her father, and her mother to talk about boundaries and clear rules of what I will not tolerate anymore. I'm still standing firm that I'm not taking her on this trip because I'm not going to award bad behavior and verbally treating me like this, and I don't want to deal with that on the trip. I do not want to be miserable on a trip that's for my niece and celebrating her graduation. When my husband goes out of town, she will be staying with her grandmother or mother. I will no longer be parenting her here since she doesn't want me to do anything for her, and I will not until her attitude changes. I said that maybe she needs to go back to therapy, and her mother and dad agreed. I told her once again that I know she has a mother and doesn't need another, and that was never my goal to try and come in and replace her mom. I just wanted to be a parental figure. My husband did apologize for not having my back and controlling this behavior before. I said that I may not be her mom, but I am her father's wife, and I need basic respect. She doesn't have to like me, but I won't tolerate her disrespect. They both asked her to apologize for what she said, and she scoffed and rolled her eyes. She stormed off, and her mother and father went after her. We also agreed to go to family therapy. I told them that I will not be asking her to do things with me, like go to the mall or look for a birthday present for her dad. But if she comes to me with a changed attitude, then I'll be more than happy to do so. Her mother said that she will be talking to her privately about how her actions have consequences, and that this is a small thing compared to what may happen in the real world. I do realize I should have been more vocal about the mistreatment, but I didn't want her to dislike me any more than she already did. But I see that that was not the correct decision, and hopefully we can come to some sort of, I can't even really think of a word or a phrase, but hopefully that we can be cordial. Well, I can understand where her anger is coming from. She was half your age when you married her dad, and you've only been married 4 years. Dad is constantly gone, and mom has a new baby, so she's pawned off on you all week. I can see why she's feeling abandoned and like they're forcing you to be her new mom. I'd give her some slack. Teenagers say stupid things when they're going through stuff, and she's going through a lot. Did you knock on her door before going in, or did you just walk in? Teenagers need to feel like they have their own space. Maybe she had just been crying and snapped at you because her actual parents weren't anywhere to be found. Come on, I remember what it's like to be a teenager, and it's farther away in time for me than it is for you. I think setting more hard rules is a really bad idea and will only breed more resentment here. She learned the lesson that you can't treat someone like crap and then expect something to be gifted to you from that person for no reason. Why don't you ask her where she wants to live during the week when dad's gone? Has anyone ever done that? OP. I'm not trying to be her mom. Never was, never will. I have tried. This last time I tried, I was verbally talked down to and told to stay out of her life. So why should she want to go on this trip if she doesn't like the person hosting it? And if he wants to take her on a trip, he can. I'm not barring her from all vacations ever. Just this one that's to celebrate my niece that I'm paying for. She's not coming along. I don't know what her and her friends do because she doesn't let me in on that part of her life, and I don't ask because she's made it clear that she doesn't want to speak about any of that with me. I only asked if she wanted to talk about what she was going through because I know how lonely it can feel going through a breakup and not having anyone to talk to. Well, what do you think? Is Opie the jerk for not taking her stepdaughter on her trip or not? Please let us know. You know, in a few years, stepdaughter's story is gonna be on Reddit too, about how much she hated her dad and his new wife. Am I the jerk for not forgiving my dad for choosing his new wife over me? I swear, Reddit boy, you're seeing into the future. Bully demands I give him my fundraising earnings. I comply, and it works out beautifully for me. I was in middle school in the 90s. I loved growing up then, even though there were gangs in my area. I generally avoided trouble. One of my classes had this big field trip planned, and they had us selling chocolates to raise money for our trip. I was pretty good at it, and I was selling at a good rate. I would take the bus, public transportation, to school, and my stop was about 2 blocks from my home. I got off at my bus stop one day with my box of chocolates, and there was this older kid. He was around 16 to 17, pretty big for his age, hanging out there. He saw me and he came towards me. This guy is clearly a gangbanger. Payaso comes up to me and says, "Hey homie, where you from?" He was asking what gang I was from. It wasn't the first time I'd been challenged like this, so I just reply, "I don't bang, man. I'm just a junior high kid." Payaso looks at my box of chocolates and takes it from me. "What's this?" I tell him it's nothing. It's something for school. He opens the box and sees a bunch of dollars in there. He grabs the bills, around $15, my sales for the day, and takes a bunch of the chocolates as well. "Tomorrow, you're going to give me $20 more. If you don't, we're going to have a real problem." I walk away feeling scared and upset. I realized I'm going to have to pay back the lost money from my birthday money, and I definitely didn't want to give this guy any more money. I think about it and decide I'll get off at a later bus stop from now on and walk a little more just to avoid this guy. The next day, this is what I do. I stuff my box in my backpack, just in case, and I exit about 2 stops later. I don't see the guy, and I think that I've solved my problem. Then I get to the store a block away from my home, and who do I see but this overgrown idiot payaso. "Hey man, you didn't forget about me, did you?" I said, "Look man, I don't have any money right now. I don't even have my chocolates. I left them at home." I shouldn't have said that. "Okay, let's go to your house, and you're gonna give me the money or something else if you don't got it." I begin getting really nervous. My mom is at work and my grandma is at home. I definitely don't want to bring him home with her there. I glance at him and notice the tattoos on his arms. At this point, I saw the perfect opportunity for malicious compliance. I tell him, "I don't think that's a good idea. Why don't you just let me go, man?" Payaso grabs me by the collar and says, "I tell you what to do, and you do it. You understand?" I nod my head and I tell him to follow me. Now it's time to give a little background. My neighbor that lived in the house next to mine, a veteran of one of the biggest, most notorious gangs in the city. He was in his 40s and a real chill dude. He loved my grandma because she would often share plates of food she made with him and his wife, and he was fond of me because I taught his 8-year-old son how to play baseball. His son had a disability, a problem with one of his legs, so most other kids wouldn't play with him, but I often did. Let's call my neighbor OG. OG always had a bunch of guys over at his house. He made sure they never caused problems, and they were all respectful towards my family in particular. Back to Payaso, the tattoos on his arms. I realized he was from the same gang as OG. I have a big smile as I'm walking home, and Payaso asks me, "Why are you smiling, idiot?" I say, "No reason," and I keep walking. As we get closer, I see a bunch of guys hanging out at OG's house. Payaso narrows his eyes, then smiles as he recognizes some of the guys. We get to OG's house, and Payaso says, "Wait here, jerk. Let me talk to my homies." OG is sitting on his porch, and Payaso starts greeting some of the guys and then heads towards OG and greets him in a reverential manner. OG notices me and says my name. "Hey, OP, what's up?" Payaso turns to look at me, and I say, "Payaso told me to wait here. I have to go home and give him money." OG stands up and says, "Why do you have to give him money?" I say, "Because he told me yesterday at my bus stop that the $15 and chocolates he took from me wasn't good enough, and I had to give him more today." Payaso begins to speak. "You know this kid, OG?" OG gives him the scariest look that I've ever seen and tells him to shut up. OG looks back at me and asks, "Is this from the chocolates you're selling?" I say yes. OG asks me how many chocolates I have left to sell. I say about 50. He tells me not to worry. Payaso is going to pay me for the 50 I have left, plus 20 for the day before, and an extra 50 for my trouble. He tells me to keep whatever else I sell. He tells me to go home, and Payaso would be back later with my money. About an hour later, there's a knock on my door, and Payaso has an envelope and says, "Here's 120, little homie. I messed up. I'm sorry. Do you have Nintendo? I brought you some games." I just stood there stunned and thinking about how I never would have guessed that getting robbed had so many benefits. I didn't see Payaso too many times after that, but whenever I did, he would wave at me and never bothered me again. Am I the jerk for telling my son that we don't really have any room for him right now, so he needs to live with his dad and stepmom? My ex-husband and I divorced when my son was 10. My ex had found someone new. We went for 50-50 custody, but he still had to pay some child support. I went back to school at that time. On the weeks his dad had him, I buckled down and did nothing but schoolwork. When he was with me, I made sure I had time for him before and after school. I did expect him to help around the house, but nothing excessive, mostly just cleaning up after himself and helping with cooking and laundry. His dad's house was more fun. I tried to make my home welcoming. I bought a used PS4 and I got fiber optic internet. It wasn't enough for him. When he was 14 and his father got the court to award my ex primary custody, I did fight it, but my son made it clear that he would run away if I didn't give in. Counseling didn't help, and I tried everything. It was devastating having my son decide I wasn't someone he wanted to spend time with. He started skipping visitation. When he did come over, he would leave the house and not come home until it was time to sleep. During this time, I started a relationship with my current husband. He helped me through this. He wasn't on my radar romantically, nobody was, so he got close by being an amazing friend. I asked him out and we got married 6 months later. We had known each other since I was back in university. 6 months after we got married, I got pregnant. By strange coincidence, so did the woman my ex was cheating with. Not the woman he left me for, a newer model. I had sold my house and my husband and I bought a condo together. Just a 2-bedroom apartment with a tiny den. We made the den into a nursery and consolidated our offices into the 2nd bedroom. My ex moved in with his new girlfriend and she isn't a fan of my son. His stepmother doesn't want him there if his father isn't there, so my son is also in the new house with his dad's pregnant girlfriend, and her mom. My son is 16 now, and he called me to see if he could stay with me. I said I didn't really have any room. He asked me what I did with his room. He didn't even know that I sold the house. He's very upset. He called me a jerk for not having a place for him to stay. I said he could stay in our living room on the couch. Not acceptable. I talked to my husband, and we have enough money from the sale of my house and his old bachelor pad, as well as our condo, to buy back into the market. We were waiting for interest rates to fall, and we were going to move to a more reasonably priced city. I told my son if he could take the living room for now, we could have a room for him in 6 months. He moved in with his grandparents. He isn't happy there. At least his dad got him a car so he can drive to his same school. My son is upset that I prioritized my new baby and my work over him. I had no expectation to ever need to house him again. My ex called me and told me to make our office into a room for our son. I told him that our son's circumstances were his fault, not mine. Everyone sucks here. Your son made his decision and he got what he wanted. It's not cool that he is now facing the consequences of his father's infidelity again, but this decision is legally bound. It's your ex's responsibility to care for your son by his own doing. With that being said, as a mother, I think you're letting an opportunity to rekindle a relationship pass. He is 16 and it was probably really hard to reach out to you and ask for help. There has to be a more creative solution that can get you both under the same roof, while also giving everyone their space during such a transitional stage. OP, I'm literally buying a house so he can have a room. I'm sorry, but the majority of people will try and tear you apart on this subreddit. You're going to be the evil one even though you offered him a couch until you can buy a house. You are in no way the jerk here. His father is, by letting his new girlfriend alienate his son to the point of kicking him out. Honestly, not the jerk. People are upset, saying you should have held a place for him, but you'd previously been doing just that, only to have the son not want to have anything to do with you. It's a lose-lose for you here, unfortunately. If you'd kept pushing the issue, despite the son saying and showing he wanted nothing to do with you, they'd have called you a boundary-stomping jerk. It's perfectly fine for you to have found a new love. It's perfectly fine for you to have another kid, or however many more you two wish to have. That doesn't make this a do-over kid like someone else stated, and you aren't replacing your son. It was fine for you two to downsize to accommodate the lives that you currently had. Your son didn't want to be with you until he realized he wasn't a priority with his dad anymore. Yes, he's a kid, but he and his father both made the choices they made, and that just isn't working out for him, now is it? It's lovely you and your current husband are looking for homes to accommodate him, truly it is. But I think that the relationship between you and your son could use some counseling before he comes back to your house and treats you like this all over again, your husband and the baby. But look, I ain't nobody. Don't let me mess up your life. I don't for the life of me understand why OP is being ripped apart here. She did everything she could, including counseling, to keep him in her life, and he allowed himself to be more or less bought by his father. Needless to say, Dad is the biggest jerk in this whole scenario because it's his responsibility to make sure his son has a home, exactly like the son chose it to be. But was Mom supposed to just keep a room for someone who stopped talking to her for no good reason other than being less fun? Not the jerk. You're the jerk. You never mentioned to your kid that you sold your house that presumably had his bedroom and personal belongings in it. Do you even call or text him? Then you bought a new place with no plans on him ever being there. No bed or personal space for him should he visit. Poor guy must feel like you've totally washed your hands of him and his existence. If you love him at all, you need to fix this. Shuffle the rooms around. Baby could room with you guys, and he can have a room. You're the jerk. Do you really mean to say you don't communicate with your kid enough for him to know that you moved houses? That kind of information is usually the bare minimum, and I mean barest, between a parent and their kid. Just because his father has full custody doesn't mean that you had to abandon him as a parent. Goodness gracious. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her son? Please let us know. So many of these stories just make me glad that you don't have kids, Reddit boy. If you did, I never would have wanted anything to do with you. Oh yeah, they'd really hate you, wouldn't they, Karen? Would I be the jerk if I bought a car without my partner's blessing? I, 34 female, have always wanted an SUV Porsche since I was a girl. My husband, 36 male, and I do very well for ourselves. We earn a little over $150,000 each, so a combined household income of over $300,000. Unlike my partner, I grew up poor, from absent, uneducated migrant parents. I worked hard with little support, put myself through school, and climbed the career ladder. When I was younger, my best friend had the life I was so envious of, loving parents, a warm house, and security. I aspired to be like her mom, a gorgeous woman who openly loved her kids and was active in their lives. She also drove a Porsche, as well as a lot of the other rich soccer moms. It became the thing I wanted to have since, the made-it item. I'm not a materialistic person. I do not own or care for luxury brands. I don't gamble. My dad continuously lost the family savings. I don't have any money pit hobbies. I currently drive a '99 Toyota that refuses to die, while my husband drives a sports car he bought for around $70,000 before we met. When we married, I brought about $60,000 more into the relationship. Our finances are completely combined, and we're lucky that we don't need to think or worry about finances. Besides our home, which is fully offsetted, we have no other debts. We're expecting our first baby and are looking into buying an SUV and replacing my death trap. He is a car person and I am not. I want to buy a Porsche while he is strongly against it, despite knowing my reasons as mentioned. These are his reasons. 1. You're paying for the brand. I know. 2. Other cars in that price range offer way more features. It doesn't even compare to what's on the market in terms of tech, safety, and inclusions. 3. It doesn't have a lot of room or boot space. 4. It does not offer a comfortable driving experience. There's more reasons, but those are the main ones. He's happy to support us buying a car within that price range, his preference being a Volvo or a Lexus. I understand his reasons are valid and know my desire for this car is emotionally driven. I don't care if it's secondhand, but he is also strongly against this. I feel like I deserve this one materialistic thing my heart wants and that I've worked hard to be in a position to afford. So before I potentially do something irreversibly, would I be the jerk if I put my foot down, tell him I'm buying this car, and go to the dealership and buy it myself without his agreement? As a car guy, I'll say you would be the jerk. You're pretty open about this just being something you want just to be like your friend's mom that you once knew. I mean, that's not a great argument to buy any luxury item, but let alone a Porsche. Whatever price you've seen on the website isn't even close to the end price you'll get to once you spec out the car, and nobody buys the base model. It's going to depreciate so much harder off the lot, and when the new wears off and things start failing out of warranty, you'll both have to deal with the consequences. He's trying to give you options, and your logic of, I want it because I want it, doesn't ring true to me on this large of a purchase. It's not a you purchase when it's this big, it involves both of you. I make over $150,000 and I drive a Volkswagen. Yeah, I want a Porsche, but it's not smart. Maybe once I'm 50. You would be the jerk. Are you okay with him making an expensive, unilateral decision with the shared finances and accounts, even after you have solid reasons against it? You would be the jerk. Not saying you couldn't afford to buy one, but you have to ask yourself what would be the cost to own a vehicle like a Porsche. German luxury performance brands are notoriously expensive to maintain, even with standard maintenance since they're usually needlessly over-engineered and complex. Your partner probably knows this as well. Not the jerk. I'm a car guy and I get what's happening here. He has the car he wants and wants you to have the safe, cheaper daily driver. If you have the funds, why not have 3? When I had more cars, though not as expensive or anything, we had a sports car, a camper van, and a daily driver car as a cheap runaround. You are not only the jerk here, but you're letting people who haven't a care in the world about your life or marriage end up deciding how your marriage will end up. You're acting like a spoiled brat stomping their foot because they were told no. You're putting your status above what's best for your kid. You're taking the clothes off their back so you can drive it around. How much are you going to love that Porsche when your kid throws up in it, or when you're constantly digging out snacks between the seats? Kids, especially babies, will ruin all cars, so you're literally willing to put everything at risk for a car that will immediately lose half its value within the first year. The car didn't make your friend's mom the best mom. Her putting the needs of her family above her wants did. You're the jerk. Well, who do you think is the jerk? OP or her husband? Please let us know. I've got a solution. Why not buy a Tesla instead? Tesla? I thought you hated the way those looked, Karen. I do. They're hideous. But that doesn't mean I don't own any shares of it. My sister refused to babysit my son, so I kicked her out of my house. I, 30 female, live with my husband, male 31, and our son, who's 5. My sister, who's 22, is still in college and had to move in with us 3 months ago because she had some issues with her roommates. Things were going fine until this argument. She also doesn't work, but my parents send her money for textbooks and groceries, but she's barely ever contributed to the household since she moved in with us. We also live in a different state from our parents and family, so I'm basically throwing her in the streets by kicking her out, which would make me a huge jerk. So my son comes back from school at around 3 to 3:30 p.m. My husband works until 6 and I work until 5, although sometimes I have to stay an hour or 2 extra. This is not normal, maybe 3 or 4 times per month when we're behind on a project. We had a babysitter that would wait until he's back. He comes back home via the school bus and would stay with him until me or my husband could come back from work. However, she recently discovered she's sick, and she told us that she can't continue working as she has to go through treatment. We thanked her for telling us and wished her to get well soon. I asked my sister to babysit our son until we can get a new babysitter, given that she doesn't have any classes at that time. She told me she never agreed to babysit when she moved in here, and that I should have told her beforehand so she could have found somewhere else to live. I told her that I knew this wasn't our agreement, but this was something exceptional since our babysitter has medical issues. She still told me she can't babysit because sometimes she has to go to the library or to study with friends, and babysitting would limit her hours of studying. I got angry, maybe too angry. So I told her that we never even ask anything from her. We helped her because we wanted to be kind with her, and yet she can't even compromise to just stay for a few hours just until we find a new babysitter. I ended up telling her that she has a week to leave because we will not be providing food or a roof over a jerk like her's head. One of my son's friend's mom is taking care of my son now. They go back to her home together and I pick him up later. My sister tried to apologize, but I told her I don't want to live with her because she showed me her true colors. She also has told our family, and a lot of them are giving me crap for leaving my sister homeless. My husband, my in-laws, and my friends support me, but it feels really harsh that my family isn't on my side. Makes me think I'm a jerk, to be honest. Edit. It wasn't easy to find another person to take care of my son. I had to take 2 days off from work, which will be taken from my next paycheck. Not the jerk. Everyone voting you're the jerk because parents must never ask for help must come from very dysfunctional families. This is not your routinely exploiting her, it's asking for help in a sudden moment of need. My family is normal, and therefore we scramble to help each other when need be. Then again, Reddit has been teaching me that family dynamics in the US are apparently weirdly cold, individualistic, selfish, and transactional. So maybe over there, we would be the weird ones. Do this next. Tap here on your screen to come see our new podcast playlist, where you'll find thousands of hours of the best stories you've ever heard. Or tap the one on the right. That episode is specifically just for you, based on other videos you've enjoyed the most.